Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to Turner Mobile Detailing. In today's video, we're going to be comparing 4 premium water-based tire dressings. Carpro Perl, Koch Chemie's PSS Plastar, Gtechniq's T2 tire dressing, and MEGUIAR'S hybrid dressing. Cue that intro. So every one of these products is considered to be a premium tire dressing, and they're also, as I stated before, water-based, which means typically they can be diluted. Now, out of the 4 products that we're going to be comparing today, only 2 of them really have instructions on how to dilute them, so we're going to assume that the other 2 really aren't meant to be diluted. The 2 that contain dilution instructions are the Carpro Perl and the MEGUIAR'S hybrid dressing. Now, even though we can dilute them, today we're actually going to use all 4 products straight out of the bottle. No dilution whatsoever. Yes, it's going to produce a higher amount of shine, which some of you may not like, but it's going to produce more longevity. And that's the whole point of what we're testing today, really, is the longevity of these water-based products. Now, typically a water-based tire dressing is really only going to give you a week to 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more than 2 weeks depending on the weather. So we're going to apply 1 product per tire, and we're going to see how they hold up over the next couple weeks. And we're actually going to be testing on 2 different vehicles. First, behind me is my wife's Subaru Forester. This car is a daily driver. It gets driven back and forth to work every day, and it also lives outside, so it faces the sun, the rain, and whatever else nature has to throw at it each and every day. Now, we're also going to be testing out these 4 tire dressings on this Range Rover Sport you see behind me. Now, this Range Rover belongs to one of my regular clients. I see this car about every 2 weeks, give or take a day or 2. So we're going to test these tire dressings on this vehicle because the driving habits of this vehicle are far different than the Subaru that we're going to be testing out also. This car is not a daily driver. It's about a semi-daily driver. My client doesn't work, but she takes the car out from time to time to run errands and so on and so forth. And the car spends its nights and most of its days inside the garage. So as I said, the driving habits and the driving conditions are much different with this vehicle than they are with the Subaru. So we're going to see if we can get more longevity out of these tire dressings with a car with these light driving habits. I cleaned the tires 2 times. Now, the reason why I clean the tires 2 times and not any more than that is because that's what I typically do on a given job. The reason being is that I primarily use a water-based dressing, and as I stated before, water-based dressings really aren't meant to last more than a week or 2. And whether you clean your tires 2 times or 5 or 6 times, it would really only produce a difference of a day or 2 of longevity. So it's really not worth it for me, time-wise anyways, to clean a tire more than 2 or 3 times if it's only going to extend the longevity of the tire dressing by a day or 2. I'm going to be using 4 different brand new, never been used microfiber applicator pads, 1 for each tire to make sure there's no cross-contamination. So we're going to see just what these premium water-based tire dressings can do in real-world conditions over the next 2 weeks. So again, we're going to be testing out Koch Chemie's PSS Plastar, Carpro Perl, MEGUIAR'S hybrid dressing, and Gtechniq T-2 tire dressing. Now again, all these products have not been diluted. I like to use my products straight. Probably the densest product here is the Pearl. It does give it a little bit of a higher shine, obviously, on initial application. However, I leave it like that. I don't love the higher shine, but in my experience, the high shine gets knocked down within a day or 2. Plus, when you apply a tire dressing straight without diluting it, you're going to get more longevity out of the product. And to me, the longevity is the most important thing. Like I said, even if it is a little shinier at initial application, that shine most likely will get knocked down after a day or 2 of driving and wear. So just like the Subaru, I've got 4 clean, brand new applicators. We're going to use a brand new clean applicator for each tire. So we're going to start right here on our front passenger side with Carpro Perl. So if you decide to go with Carpro Perl and you use it straight, undiluted, I recommend that you pick up one of their nifty little pump dispensers. It makes application so much easier and cleaner. Next, on the rear passenger side, we're going to be using Koch Chemie's PSS Plastar. This stuff has a very thin consistency. you've ever used a tire coating that usually are more of a thinner consistency, you know that the consistency does not usually mean less longevity. Now for the front driver's side, we're going to be using Gtechniq's T2 tire dressing. The Gtechniq T2, just like the Koch Chemie PSS, is very thin in consistency. It's nowhere near as thick as the Carpro Perl. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything when it comes to longevity. It just makes application a little bit easier. And last, but certainly not least, on the rear driver's side tire, MEGUIAR'S hyper dressing. Now the MEGUIAR'S is not as thick as the Carpro Perl, but it's certainly not as thin as the Koch Chemie PSS or the Gtechniq T2, but it's still not so thick to not work in a spray bottle. Okay, so we've got all 4 tire dressings applied. Let's go around the car and see what each one of them looks like after it's been freshly applied. First, let's take a look at Carpro Perl. A very nice satin to semi-gloss finish. Really brings out the deep black of the tire. And then we applied Koch Chemie's PSS Plastar, which produces, again, a nice semi-gloss to satin finish. And then we applied Gtechniq's T2 tire dressing. This also produces a nice satin to semi-gloss finish. And then finally, MEGUIAR'S hyper dressing. And this also produces a nice satin to semi-gloss finish. Okay, so all that's left to do is pull the car back in the garage where she'll be safe and sound. Okay, so the car's in the garage, so we'll see this car in 2 weeks, and we'll see just how these premium tire dressings held up after a semi-daily driving schedule and living in a garage. Okay, so we're going to see how these dressings hold up over the course of the next 2 weeks of everyday driving, real-world driving conditions. But first, before we wrap this video up, let's go over some pricing information. First, for a Carpro Perl, if you buy it in the 1 liter or 33.8 ounce size, which in my opinion is the most economical, I paid $25.99, which equivalates to 77 cents per ounce. Next up was the Koch Chemie. Again, in a liter size or 33.81 ounces, I paid $34.95, which equals out to $1.03 an ounce. Next was the Gtechniq T2 tire dressing for a 250 milliliter bottle, which equals out to 8.5 ounces. I paid $7.95, which equals out to 94 cents per ounce. And then finally, the MEGUIAR'S hyper dressing for the gallon, which is the most readily available for hyper dressing. Although if you look, you can find it online in a 32 ounce size, but it's most readily available in the gallon size. So for a gallon, 128 ounces, I paid $55.12, which equivalates out to 43 cents per ounce. So obviously the MEGUIAR'S hyper dressing is the most economical at only 43 cents per ounce. Next up was the Carpro Perl at 77 cents per ounce. The third most expensive was the Gtechniq tire dressing at 94 cents an ounce. And finally, the most expensive was the Koch Chemie's PSS Plastar at $1.03 an ounce. So that's how much these products cost per ounce and in bulk. However, to determine the value, we really need to see how long each product lasts. I'd say the easiest to apply was the Gtechniq and the Koch Chemie because they had the thinnest consistency. Next was the MEGUIAR'S hyper dressing because it also has a somewhat thin consistency. And then the hardest to apply, which is by no means hard, but out of our 4 contestants, the most difficult to apply, again, difficult being relative, was the Carpro Perl. So let's see how these products hold up over the next 2 weeks on both these vehicles. Let me know in the comments below which one you think is going to come out on top, which one you think will look the best after 2 weeks of real-world driving conditions. If you enjoyed this content, please don't hesitate to give us a like right down below. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss any future auto detailing content just like this, including the update to this video in just 2 weeks. As always, I'm Seth with Turner Mobile Detailing, and we'll see you in the next video.